first objective is to free 30 million Americans from the prison of poverty.
In the 1960s, President Lyndon Johnson sounded a nationwide call to end poverty.
Can you help us free these Americans from the prison of poverty? And if you can, let me hear your voices.
It was a time of momentous change in America. For more than a decade, the civil rights movement had been challenging the country to confront its history of bigotry and expand its practice of democracy. The movement awoke in the nation's leaders a new social consciousness and pushed them to action. Robert Sargent Shriver was at the center of it all. He led the Catholic Interracial Council in Chicago and earned the support of national civil rights leaders for John Kennedy's presidential campaign. He was then called upon to set up America's new program to reach out to the developing world, the Peace Corps. And now President Johnson would look to Sargent Shriver to build a national campaign against poverty.
With Lyndon Johnson, probably 50 different reasons he chose Sargent. Many of them had to do with everything from Bobby Kennedy to, all kinds of other reasons. But the fact is, he knew Sargent could reach out to every community and put this together.
And now, tell us how to get started on Project Head Start with Sargent Shriver.
Head Start, Peace Corps, Job Corps, Legal Services. I don't know of anybody who has ever created this kind of unique set of programs and made them work.
We inaugurated something called community action. Therefore, we expect action at the community level. And when you've got action, you've got arguments, you've got dissent, you've got differences of opinion.
Of all the national programs Sargent Shriver created, Legal Services would become the most influential and the most controversial.
This is a start in the war against poverty.
First envisioned by Edgar and Jean Kahn, this bold new program would deploy lawyers to impoverished communities to offer the poor the power to be heard in America's courts.
We proposed a vehicle that would protect people who had no access to law, and Sarge suddenly saw that this was a key element, a central element of the entire war on poverty.
There are many ways in which this war on poverty should be conducted.
Shriver secured the backing of the American Bar Association, and he recruited attorneys Earl Johnson and Clint Bamberger to run the program. Within a matter of months, hundreds of young lawyers responded to their appeal to bring justice and opportunity to America's poor.
What you are saying to poor people is, we're going to provide lawyers who can represent you. It was a terrific change and a radical change. And Sarge Shriver saw it, made it happen.
For the first time in the history of this country, poor people actually have a place and a way in which to express themselves.
You can just imagine in local jurisdictions with legal services lawyers for the first time were suing these powerful interests and suing government, what the reaction was. He stood up to it.
Señor, tenía cita para ahora usted, ¿que no?
Shriver and others saved CRLA's funding, but across the nation, anti-poverty lawyers came under attack.
He bought into a mess of trouble and stood by it. He was putting his personal capital on the line and all the credibility that he had bought with the Peace Corps and his own reputation as somebody from the private sector who had been successful. He was very clear that this had to be one of what he called national emphasis programs, that this had to stand up along with Head Start as one of the major thrusts of the war on poverty. And I'm mighty proud that he did. He's a fighter. He doesn't back off.
The fact is, we're doing things, and we're affecting people who have never been affected before. We're giving a voice to people who have never been heard before. When that happens, that means action. That means controversy. That means excitement. And that means criticism, and that means all those things. But why get discouraged? In fact, I think it's encouraging.
Good afternoon, Maigret.
In its first 6 months of operations, the Neighborhood Legal Services Program handled 93,000 clients and won nearly 75% of its court cases.
What a great change this was to put legal services programs in every state, to have thousands of legal services lawyers working with clients filing hundreds of thousands of cases.
To ensure that these lawyers had the backup to succeed, Shriver and others set up the National Center on Poverty Law.
What Sarge did was build a system where you could train and keep lawyers informed in a way that they could compete in the courts with any lawyers in the country. They'd even be better because they were more passionate and committed and involved with their clients in a way because they cared so much about it.
The center served as a strategy in communication.